There, they lived in some poverty at number 61 Patission Street. When dropped off her father, the effect on the already shy and introverted Maria was profound.
For years, she wore baggy, drab clothes, and she says her mother always made these dark little dresses with white collars. That was her obsession. She said, oh, my mother's always making these little dresses with white collars. And when I met Maria's sister, Jackie, I said, how is it that you were always so beautifully dressed and so elegant, and your sister always looked not like a ragbag, but I mean, she was just very poorly put together. Well, Jackie said that, a lot of the clothes were made by their mother, but Maria didn't have the figure to wear them, and so she looked dumpy.
A mother must be a good mother to her children, yes or no? There is no going away from that. It is a responsibility. She's not doing anything special. It is her duty, not responsibility. It's her duty. There's where I'm stiff as a German, if it can be called German. A mother, there's nothing extraordinary about, oh, how wonderful a mother she is. She's got to be wonderful. Otherwise, don't have children. If you don't even trust your mother, who do you trust? The program was that, of course, I should become a singer, I should become an artist in any case. Usually what parents say is, well, I sacrificed myself for you, but you will do what I was supposed to do in life.
But the mother did have the good sense to send her to the music conservatory here in Athens, where she attended the classes of a famous teacher, Elvira de Hidalgo, with her best friend and fellow student at that time, Zoe Vlachopoulou.
Θυμάμαι λοιπόν όταν ήρθε το 1939 στην τάξη της κυρίας de Hidalgo, μια κουπέλα ψηλή.
When she came to Madame Hidalgo's class in 1939, she was a tall, fat, dark-haired girl with beautiful eyes and great self-assurance. Judging by her appearance, I didn't think she would be able to sing. But when she opened her mouth, my own mouth fell right open. And Hidalgo, she was transfixed. Maria seemed to learn everything so quickly. By the end of her first term, she was speaking fluent Italian and French. She was very clever.
Elle était très musicale et musicienne parce qu'elle connaissait très bien la musique, elle jouait du piano, très bien.
She was very musical. She played the piano well.
Elle partait la dernière.
She was always the first to arrive in class and the last to leave. She listened to all my students, often for 5 hours at a time. She was fascinated by the idea of reaching the top notes. She asked me about her future. I said that if she continued like this, she would be able to achieve everything. Everything.
After 6 months of training with de Hidalgo, I was immediately engaged, shall we say, by the then 6-month-old opera in Greece on an agreement that I would not sing anywhere else. And de Hidalgo had seen to that contract. So I would have a sum of money, and that would give me the possibility of studying patiently without having the necessity of going around to work, because it was during the war, you know.
It was a terrible time. Hunger.
and seeing people dying in the streets, walking everywhere because there was no transport whatsoever. Maria used to go 4 times a day to the conservatoire, quite a distance, backwards and forwards on foot. And if you had the money to get some sort of food, you got it. If you didn't, then you had to sell things. All your valuables had to be sold to the black marketeers and buy food. She was pushed in a way, but Maria had to do what she did.
Although she had been singing since she was 14, her professional operatic debut was actually in a cinema, the Callas, because the National Theatre had no air raid shelter. She sang in Boccaccio by Franz von Suppé. 1 year later, incredibly enough, she sang Tosca, but her first big public success was in the opera by D'Albert called Tiefland, conducted by Maestro Zoras. She was only 21.
Δεν υπήρχε ηλεκτρικό και η Callas με η Καλογεροπούλου λεγόταν τότε.
There was no electricity, so we used to sit at night with oil lamps. But every 10 minutes the lamps would go out. But Maria would insist on cleaning them and lighting them again. We must rehearse, 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 she would say.
I think the secret was her willpower. Callas was born with all sorts of disadvantages. Maria was not born a beautiful woman. Maria was fat, obese, ungraceful. When you realize the type of body she started out with in life, which was like that of a pachyderm, her voice was not of the most beautiful quality. And still she made this instrument the most expressive, the most telling, the most true to the music that she interpreted of all of the singers of her day.
We'd sit down at the table and we'd have something in front of us and she'd say, "Oh, Nadia, what is that? It looks absolutely delicious. Is that some Greek or Turkish specialty or whatever it was?" I mean, Turkish, because we were in Turkey at the time. I'd say, "Well, I don't know, some..." And she'd say, "Well, can I have a tiny taste?" And so she'd pick a little out of your plate. And then she'd pick a little bit more. And then she'd pick out of the thing that was absolutely next to that. And finally, she'd eaten practically everything you had on your plate. And she tried everything out of everyone's plate. Drove me mad. She loved ice cream. The minute we'd finish a meal, she'd turn to the waiter and say, "Would you have any ice cream?" And if the waiter said, "Yes, we have vanilla and chocolate," well, that wasn't good enough. She wanted all kinds of different flavors, and the more the merrier.
So I went to one of these gatherings, and here came this extraordinary ballsy lady. It was big, everything was immense, you know, big eyes, big mouth, big teeth, I mean, beautiful, big nose, and rather hairy, rather big bust. I was impressed by that. Giant, she looked like the Statue of Liberty. Because of her success in Greece, it was inevitable that sooner or later we would lose her. And in 1947, she was invited to Verona in Italy to sing in La Gioconda under the most influential opera conductor of his time, Tullio Serafin.
I had the opportunity to recommend her because I was invited to open that season with Faust. And the director of the Arena of Verona was in New York at the time, and I went to pay a visit to him and thanking him for the contract and so on. And he told me, "But I would like very much to open the season with Gioconda. But it doesn't exist any Gioconda in the world," he said to me. And I told him right away, "You know, I think I have a Gioconda in my pocket." It was so important that she met there Tullio Serafin, who understood her potential, understood her musicality, her talent, and her voice. He used to call her una grande vociaccia. Vociaccia, it's a little bit pejorative. I mean, it means an ugly voice, but grande means a big voice, a great ugly voice in a way, yes.